First, we need to continue to prevent escalation of this conflict. Second, we need to do more to protect Palestinian civilians. Matters because failure to do so plays into the hands of Hamas.
War is not perfect. This idea that you're going to bat 1,000 in war, the American government doesn't bat 1,000.
Well, there is this talk about a pause by the Secretary of State, by others, by the President. Matthew Continetti with the Free Beacon has this article out called Let Israel Win. And in part it says this: Hamas could end all of this tomorrow if it released the hostages, put down its arms, and surrendered. Hamas, not Israel, is the aggressor. Hamas, not Israel, is the occupier of the Gaza Strip. Hamas, not Israel, rejects international law. Hamas, not Israel, steals food, fuel, and water from civilians. And the fact that these words need to be written at all is evidence that the culture producing institutions of the West, the media, the universities, culture, and political celebrities are irreparably broken. I commend that to you. It's an interesting read. With that, let's bring in our panel. Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokesperson, Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner, and Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist. Morgan, what about that? You know, Hamas should be the one surrendering, giving up the hostages, and that's the ceasefire on that side.
That's exactly right. I even hesitate to use the word hostages because we know that Hamas uses these people, Americans, by the way, not just Israelis. They've got Americans as well. They use them as human shields. And so Hamas is not seeking in all of this a two-state solution, an independent state for the Palestinian people. They are seeking from the river to the sea to completely wipe out the Jewish people and the Jewish state. And they don't mind. Listen, there's reports today on Twitter. There's firsthand accounts of Palestinians that were gunned down reportedly by Hamas trying to escape. They're slowly trickling and letting Americans out. So we have to remember on this quote unquote humanitarian pause, ceasefire, whatever you want to call it. I think we're just playing semantics here. Any pause gives Hamas an advantage on the battlefield whenever Israel is in very, very tough military combat to try and eradicate this sort of physical caliphate of Hamas, similarly how there was a physical caliphate of ISIS. So I would just remind everyone that there's nothing that Hamas is doing that is for the Palestinian people or for a brighter future for them or even for a two-state solution.
Yeah, Leslie, it's not to take away from the concern about civilian casualties, civilian fatalities inside Gaza. But why is the onus not on Hamas in the way that we talk about it?
You know, it's very interesting. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and terrorists terrorize. That's what they did a few weeks ago in Israel. That's what they've done before. But sadly, the world and the people of Gaza don't see Hamas bombing the church they're taking refuge in, whether they're Christians or Muslims. The doctors that say, look, we don't have the water, we don't have the supplies. You know, we can keep saying Hamas is cutting everything off, but we, Egypt and other countries are bringing, you know, supplies in that is just not enough for the number of wounded. So something has to change, and it's not just the rhetoric. There are many, and I would disagree with Morgan respectfully. I adore her, but a ceasefire is very different than a humanitarian pause. And forgive me for sounding extremely cynical here, but a humanitarian pause is sort of like, let's patch everybody up so we can send them back home to come back and get hurt again. That doesn't solve anything. It doesn't free the hostages. It doesn't protect the children, the thousands of children that have died, and hundreds of thousands more that could. You know, we look at, in our own country, with our own military, the best in the world, and arguably Israel has the second best military and intelligence in the world. And with Osama bin Laden, we sent in special forces. We didn't kill any of his family in the same house he was sitting in. We didn't carpet bomb all of Pakistan, even people that were hiding him or knew that he was there. You know, there's got to be a different way. Now, the United States may not be in agreement with me on that, but certainly many throughout the rest of the world are, in the EU
well,
especially.
I'll just point out, from having covered the Pentagon for 6 years during that time, there were a lot of drones that dropped a lot of bombs on a lot of al-Qaeda leaders that also killed a lot of civilians. And nobody was saying for the U.S. to pause or push back. This is not to say Matthew Continetti is our fourth panelist here, but he just ends with this. Why not try a different strategy? Why not say that Israel has every right to protect itself, that Hamas is responsible for every life lost, and that America will stand with Israel until the job is done? No more equivocation. negotiation, no more dithering, no more obedience to the politically correct. Let Israel win. Byron, I mean, it's just not portrayed that way, and you wonder how this is rhetorically going to move forward from here.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that Secretary Blinken appears to have failed here. I mean, just the fact is, Israel is a sovereign nation, and even if you give them a lot of aid, which the United States does, you cannot dictate to them that they do something that they feel would be very damaging to their national security. Now, not everything that the Secretary was saying here was wrong, and if Israel does go ahead and just flatten Gaza and kill untold numbers of Palestinians, they will pay a price in reputation and in relations with other countries and in their own security. But it's not something the United States can just go over and tell another country to do against their own security.
Morgan, last word here and about what we're seeing on the anti-Semitism front on college campuses. You know, we did that piece about TikTok. A lot of kids get information from TikTok, and it's exponentially that way, either pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian in some way, shape, or form.
Our young generation is being radicalized on TikTok. And this is the same version of TikTok that the Chinese Communist Party does not allow for their young people, for their children, because they know, as Mike Gallagher has pointed out, that it's digital fentanyl, it's poison for the mind. And also on Telegram as well, we're seeing the same problem. So lawmakers in the United States are going to have to make a decision. They know that young people are being radicalized on TikTok. And so far, nobody is willing to do anything about it.
Leslie, last word.
I would agree with the TikTok issue. I have two teenagers, and it is a struggle. I think any of you have teens or kids in general, it is a struggle. But at the end of the day, sadly, there's throughout campuses, there's anti-Semitism. There was a Palestinian woman, who's been heckled repeatedly, and this is caught on video at Johns Hopkins. The universities have to do more to protect all of their students from all religions.
Yeah. All right, panel, thanks so much.